I'm going to go ahead and call this special board meeting to order. Present, we have all of our board members here. Shelley's here, Sherry's here, Kenny's here, Rich is here, and of course, I'm here. Let's go ahead and do our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will be meeting in closed session, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure litigation pursuant to paragraph 203 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, one case. All right, let's move into our public comment period. Everybody receive any?
I did not receive any online or via phone.
Okay.
However,
And then what about online, Chelsea? Anybody? Public comment? I don't have any hands raised online, but, okay. We do have a video to show. Yeah.
maybe we can increase that volume a little bit.
Say that again?
I was wondering if we can increase that volume a little bit.
I think that's.
Oh, that was the
outside.
meeting.
That's
Oh, it's
outside.
outside.
Yeah. So we do have during the public comment period, we do have a video to share that just came out. That's our video, so.
Yeah, so I'd like to,
Board members might want to, and the community might want to see it.
so this is coming in off of Reynolds Road. Can you move your cursor, please?
This one. Thank you.
Going towards Collins Pine. Skilled nursing, this is their south garden area.
Is there seating out there?
Was it?
Will there be seating?
Yes. Central utilities plant, back of the kitchen, receiving. It's also where the MRI trailer will go. This is emergency. This is now facing to the west, Collins Pine. A little bit choppy on here.
Oh, even have like a helicopter?
A DEO.
Yeah, the actual video is smoother on most of our internet.
The acute wing. And then facing to the north, that's Stover Ditch out there.
It's so amazing to take a tour of something that doesn't exist. I mean,
Isn't
our
it?
technology is just so,
It's much smoother with, I mean, it's a little choppy, obviously, but
doesn't just.
this is the front entrance, facing to the north with the mall. And this is the view of the north garden from the skilled side. Now it's facing Wildwood.
Christmas tree.
Right? This is the entire campus. Sorry, I'm not trying to get this set.
Yeah.
There's the expansion point on the skill.
There it is.
Oh, you can share this one.
Yes, and it is on our website, it's on our homepage, so you guys can view it on our website, it is much smoother, it's not that choppy, it's just posting it through, makes it kind of flat. So, yeah, it's on our website,
That
it's
is-
sharing on social media as well.
That is very much what it's going to look like, those color palettes. That's the landscaping designs that, in other words, trying to cover not a lot of grass, but trying to keep this natural, and natural flowers and stuff. But that is a very, very good depiction of what the hospital is going to look like.
Looks beautiful.
Nice. Really, it was very nice.
Thank you.
And it was choppy, sorry about that. It's usually
Yeah, yeah, go watch it from our website, it's much smoother and you can see the colors even better, yeah.
How do you get this out to the public? Everybody?
We are putting it out, Chelsea, we're putting it out everywhere.
So on our website, we'll be sharing it on social media as well, and with all of our news and media contacts, and we know everywhere we can.
You're gonna put it on the town chatter,
Yeah.
a link
It'll
on
be a
town
link
chatter.
to it, the chatter doesn't have the capabilities to play videos, but we can.
Sure.
All right,
Very cool.
and hearing no other public comment, I think we'll go ahead and move on, if that's okay with everyone. So next up, we have Steve with our financial report. Okay.
Okay, month of May, 2023. Working on June right now. We'll have June done this week. So we'll be able to present that to you all at next Thursday's, a week from this Thursday, board meeting, so that's good. Well, looks like we can get back in the rotation of getting you guys monthly financial statements, so. So for the month of May, we did have a loss that exceeded the budget by just under $111,000. TK, are you running the screen?
Ryan, just go down.
You, go to the second page. Keep creeping a little. That's good. Thank you. So for the month of May, we had a loss that exceeded budget by just under $111,000. This was due to a combination of a negative variance in total operating expense, $163,000. That was somewhat offset by a positive variance in both total operating and non-operating, so patient revenue and non-operating revenue. So when we look at the expenses, the entire variance, and there's some pluses and minuses as we slide down, but the entire variance was due to labor-related costs. And that's the three categories right under expenses, first three. Salaries and wages, which are our W-2 employees, employee benefits, the benefits on their wages, and then contract labor, which is non-physician contract labor registry for nursing and technicians. Included in salaries and wages for the month of May was the retroactive payment to apply the 3% union negotiated cost of living increase. And that was a increase of 3% on all employees, not just union members. And 3% effective January 1. So we had to take that increase back to January 1, put it against their hours worked through the month of May, give them a one-time payment, give everyone a one-time payment, and then adjust the rate going forward. Is there any questions about that?
We also had added expenses related to the Cerner issue and that.
We're getting to that, Jerry. So, yes. In employee benefits, we're well over budget, one of the first times for the year. What we did is we were finally able to implement the matching program for the employees. It was approved in 2022. We just had a challenge getting the plan administrator to set it up and then put us in a position to do the contributions for the employees. We did the plan effective January of 2023, and this was the amount. There's $53,152 that we did to retroactively do the matching to January 1 of 2023. The matching was the lower of, I have to always think this one through, is the lower of the actual employee contribution, voluntary contribution, or 3% of their eligible wages. So essentially it's a 3% matching. There are a few employees that contribute less than 3% of their wage and they receive a matching, but generally speaking, it's a 3% match. Contract labor, and we'll see this continue. We'll really see the impact of this in June. Contract labor was over budget due to the use of well, in the month of May, we had registry staff in the lab department, and it was related to an unbudgeted need that was necessitated by staff illness. We have a tech on extended medical leave, and the demands of Cerner, very heavy demands on our lab manager, who also is one of our technicians. This is something that we're going to see again continue into June with the Cerner, but we're also seeing some extended leaves of absence within our organization, medical leaves of absence. And they're hitting some of our higher wage positions, nurses, technicians. When we do the budget, we estimate an amount for time off. There's two components of the time off. One is the PTO, and that covers everybody's holidays, vacation, and short-term illness. Then we also have an extended sick leave policy, which is 6 days a year. The employees can use that after they've been away on a related illness for 3 days. So that is a non-accrued, non-benefited amount. When employees leave, they can't take their accrued sick time. They can only use it when they're there. Whereas the PTO, employees can take it with them when they go. So when we do the budget, we know the PTO, we know what everyone's going to get. We know that, or we like to assume that our employees, the non-mandatory staffing employees, are going to take their time off. And that's not always the case. And so if they don't take the time off that we give them each year, then that's an expense on top of their regular wage, whether they get it paid out or whatever happens.
Do you have a cap on on how many they can accrue?
Yeah. So, they have to get paid out, when they go over 200 hours, they get paid out. We have some employees that got beyond that when Kelly left. She was the one that was monitoring that as far as making sure that they got paid out on their anniversary or some kind of interval. We're trying to reinstate that so that we don't have that huge liability anymore. So we can do a reasonable estimate of that. What we can't, I mean, it's just a guess. I mean, how many people are going to be sick? How many people are going to use extended sick? And it really is. We work off historical numbers. And in my 5+ years here, I've never seen anything like this.
Do we offer any short or long-term disability plans through our
We do.
benefits?
Yeah, when employees go out on leave, they can apply for disability. So, and if they do receive disability, then if they've taken amount, you know, you can't double dip, so we can get back some of that amount we paid, we can get some of it. Same thing with workers' comp, same thing at work. Sometimes employees will just say, I'm not gonna take it, I'm only gonna take enough to cover my benefits or whatever it is, and then sometimes they take both things, so, yeah. California's actually quite good at that.
I know it's costly to have to backfill though, when somebody's out.
It is, and usually it's with the registry, and so, that's,
That you have to hold the position. So you have to register yourself.
It's hard on a budget.
right, so that's what happened in May. I guess it's kind of self-explanatory. We'll certainly discuss it with you all.
Think this is gonna carry over into June? You said this is kind of a abnormal time.
Well, two things are happening is that June's done. And, and we kind of know what the numbers look like, and it was rough. So, and it's summer, so we even staff up a little more during the summer, especially in the emergency room. And then the leaves of absence are just something that come and go. And so the good news, last piece, the days cash on hand increased to the receipt of the second Anthem rate range payment amount of just under $1.2 million. I'm going to be so happy when I'm talking about the current month. And although the funds were received in May, which is, you know, saying the cash went up, that we had previously recorded the revenue. So, you know, as we look towards the end of the year, like I said, there's going to be some increase on expenses. But I think that what we're going to see is we're going to be a little bit under on patient revenue, a little under the budget, a little over on expenses, or somewhat over. And then we've done well in the non-operating revenue. Our intergovernmental transfer programs have produced a positive variance, as have the philanthropy for the new hospital build, received deduction or contributions and interest income, but interest income will now have a stable environment where we know what we're going to get. But overall, we were at year to date, we were positive to budget, $210,000. When I talked we did a little impromptu treasurers meeting, and Rich had asked the question as we talk about the Cerner thing, Cerner, did we budget for it? And my response to him, the short answer is no, we did not budget for the labor. When Cerner came in, I mean, they threw out this one-page document that says basically your labor's gonna double. So we said, okay, example of that was in materials management. They said, okay, you're gonna need 2 people instead of 1. And we slogged through it pretty well in materials management. We did get Stevens do some help, but I mean, he did the work himself, as did a lot of us, put in the hours. But others on an hourly basis had to work through it. Where we did put significant dollars is we put it in purchase service. We just, if you guys can rewind to the budget presentation, that we just put a big pot of money that was designated for support of the Cerner system. And I think that the way it's looking right now is, depending how everything falls, that we'll probably have somewhere $150,000 to $200,000 of unencumbered funds in that bucket. That somewhat offsets the labor and registry costs that we have incurred and will incur in the month of June. So, no, it's not exact, it's not the best thing, but it's gonna put us in a fairly reasonable position, I think, from a budget variance. Couple more things about labor. We did do a CNA certification program, which is a great thing, just such a fabulous thing to do, where we can, it's the proverbial grow our own, where we put young candidates through the program. They graduate out of the program, they get the work experience, we can put them to work, take their exam. If they pass their exam, we can put them on full time. And the difference between a CNA employed versus a CNA contracted is a significant savings to us. But we make an investment up front because we're paying them while they're here. And we have to have staffing, our base staffing, to cover it until we can put them out on their own and they have the qualifications to work.
Is there any thought given to moving them forward, advancing their career after they've become a CNA and been here for a designated period of time? And I'm not necessarily saying financial, but maybe there are other ways to support them in pursuing, in RN.
Definitely, we've discussed that as a, kind of, we're always talking about career ladders here, how to develop that. When it comes to CNAs, not everybody wants to move on. Some of these people, this is their career goal. Some of them do have the goal of moving on, hopefully to RN eventually. But for many of them, this is where they want to be. And then we also work with the Butte training place. So if we retain, when these CNAs are successful, if we hire them and retain them as permanent employees for up to 90 days post their course, we will receive reimbursement through Butte training place. And then we also continue to work with the Alliance for Workforce Development here. So we just hired a brand new LVN, new grad. He's adorable, and he started long-term this week. And if we retain him for 90 days full-time, we will receive 50% compensation from Alliance. So those are just other ways that we're trying to structure so that financially Seneca isn't completely hurt by the whole growing our own. So we still come out ahead if we can retain these long-term
I'm
employees.
kind of big on the idea of growing your own, if people who are already invested in the community or here.
Yes. And usually they already have housing and they have childcare and they have all of the things that an outsider is going to struggle with coming into this environment.
And the last thing affecting labor, and I think this is really important from the board's perspective. Again, I've been here 5+ years, and I have great pride in the way we treat our employees, both from a financial and a humanistic standpoint. And we have a structure within our program where employees have annual increases, step increases to keep them market competitive. And then there's also a component where we negotiate cost of living through the union agreement. And that was that 3% that went in this year. Our financials are not great. They're decent, but they're not great. And so for us to be throwing out significant across the board type increases, I just don't think is responsible. That's me being the fiduciary of our finances. And so when I set the budget, I say, you know, we're going to do two things is they're going to get, the employees are going to get their step increase, but we also do market studies where we look at the wages in comparison to places around us, and we make sure that we're within a certain percentile. We've gone from 80 to 85. I don't know if we've hit 90 yet, but we're very competitive with the area. And so I know that the last, 12, 18 months has been pretty chaotic in our economy and prices and everything. And, you know, when the union starts with us, they say, okay, well, inflation's at 7.5%. We want 7.5%. So our employees stay whole with their, you know, with their paycheck. And yeah, that's a valid argument, but it's not sustainable for this organization. So we did agree to a 3% cost of living increase, and it got us into a 3-year contract. So now we know exactly what our labor cost increases are going to be over the next couple of years. And in turn, we will budget accordingly. But it's hard to budget an increase in like that unless it's negotiated, I guess is the best way to say it.
I'm noticing that the days cash on hand went up a bit.
Yeah.
And so I've forgotten what our target is on that. Do we have targets?
Well, back in the good old days, if you will, you know, our target was 200 days cash on hand, 200 plus days. But one of the other statistics that I don't give you is the average age of the plant. And when your average age of your plant goes really high, this means your building's old, you don't have a lot of debt, it's depreciated out. And so we had high cash on hand, but we had an old aged building. So what we're shooting for, and pulled us into a little more formality when we do the cash flow analysis at next week's board meeting, as we look to get the project going, is that we want to come out of the project with at least 100 days cash on hand. And,
You're comfortable with that?
what's that?
You're comfortable with that?
Well, it'll take some getting used to not having so much, you know, reserve, but that's 3 months cash on hand. That works.
I guess the average for a facility like ours is much lower, isn't it? Like around 45. I thought it was more.
62. We don't.
I'm not thinking about that.
No, we don't back in history.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. What is our current short-term interest rate that we're getting currently?
3.3 through LAIF. Well, we've engaged this class. I'd like to bring them at the soonest possible meeting. They will get a higher rate for us, for sure. And as soon as we get through this USDA loan work this month, I can
We don't
focus.
want to interfere with that, but we know that you can get over 5%.
Well, we know we can get over 3.3, that's for sure. Yeah.
5%. Okay.
I'd love it if a local bank would step up and give us
So
some.
isn't the US Bank doing it for short-term?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you've heard that from me enough, so I'll move on to the concern for both of you. Is there anything we need from Oracle help? And I'm saying this, Sean, because they contacted me and I have an 8 o'clock phone call with them tomorrow. their chief health officer talked to me, not about this, but I can certainly bring SAC into play. It just came
If I can think of anything just right off the top of my head, is that their CCW, Certain Community Works, which is the product we have, the domain product for smaller facilities, should more accurately mimic the base Millennium. Their Millennium electronic health record, which is that's the one they sell to big organizations. There are things that are in Millennium that are not in Community Works that are part of the base package, but they have a Millennium domain that I find very beneficial to Community Works. It needs to mimic, it can be smaller scale.
Are you hearing from your contacts that they plan to do that, or?
No. They're sort of two different worlds, but the Millennium product has more stuff in it that we find beneficial.
Is it more data?
It's more continuity between experiences.
Millennium is probably what you had.
Yeah, so we have yet to really dive into our data. We have a thing called the health check. So before we start diving into data and what's available to us, they like to get the database filled with some information, right? So we have our health check coming up at the end of July. And I believe, based upon what I've seen, we're gonna be able to pull some really great data from the system. So it's not about the analytics and the reports that we can get. I work with Millennium, and there's some things that aren't in Community Works that are beneficial to the organization in their base product and their big product. I would like to see more cohesion between the two.
Well, if there's anything specific,
Yeah.
I have this 8 o'clock call, just send me an email and I'll ask a question.
You can ask the big question. And that is, I'm worried about their engineering staff. I understand that they're just flying off the tree. They're just leaving in droves.
Since the transition?
Yeah, and that concerns me because now I worry about R&D. I worry about when we put in a ticket for something that requires an engineer or somebody on the back end, who's going to be answering that call? I'm personally concerned with what's happening in Cerner as it relates to being able to maintain and service the systems they've sold, let alone the two that they're implementing in our area. I mean, because all of the Mills and MODOC are all in the middle of implementation. It concerns me, that when we have changes that need to be done. And the last one for me, if I could ask, is more control of the site. We should be able to do things to our system. I know it's on a domain, as long as it's not a global change to the domain, we should have more freedom to do things like changing experiences, just little things that help us create operations more efficiently versus giving a ticket to an organization that I think their ticketing system is going to get delayed because people need it. I'm concerned about that. That's my worry. So those are the big ones for me. Do you have any thoughts on what Oracle can do better?
Sean talks about this domain thing, and it's actually multiple facilities in like a group of hospitals. And they gave us our list of the domain, and the only other California critical access, or even maybe they're critical access, I don't know, Eastern Plumas.
Yeah.
So it's my sense that they're really, we don't have Plumas District in there, which would have been fabulous. That it's a facility.
We will have MODOC and.
Yeah, they're gonna learn from us. And there's no one in there that knows that we've been teaching the Cerner contractors things. You can tell them taking notes when they're talking to us, and I'm not just saying us, but the company R1 that we've been using, which has been fabulous. But R1's learning too. So it's just such a new solution to push Community Works out, I think, in general, but to push it out to hospitals our size, it's really, there's not a lot of proven success stories or facilities that have done that. And like, we can't just say, hey, how can we do this, or how can we do that? Call another place. Like we're getting wrapped around the axle on generic codes for pharmacy. Nobody else needs generic codes. It just seems very odd.
No, user group kind of.
Maybe I have a user group, not going to sign, but we're finding that domain to domain are so different. I mean, they're.
Because whenever they grow, we would get eventually, hopefully,
Well,
when
we
they
hope
update.
so. Brian Churchill came from a different domain on the East Coast, and they have things in their domain that he's shocked that we don't have. So they're not even mimicking the domains very much. They're trying to do catch up. My understanding is that they're trying to mirror them, you know. But we're not there. We're missing some stuff that one domain in the East Coast or domain in the Midwest might have, but we don't have it.
Maybe if you want specifics, Brian might be the person to get them from.
Yeah, well, he's got a list of things he's going to be asking this domain to get, but they're domain changes. So yes, they have a user group meeting. We will be a big part and a very big voice in that domain. We have not been invited to the domain lead user free meeting yet, but they do have them, and we will be one of the 25 participants. But the nice thing is we've got Modoc, Eastern Columbus, and Fall River that are all going to be in our domain. So we're hoping to be able to coalesce our ask and create more energy in that regard. We actually asked for Plymouth to be added to the domain I.
What about a conference, a user group conference?
Yeah.
We used to go to that.
Yeah.
It was really helpful.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we have a little bit of juice. I did actually request that, and I talked to Plymouth District, if they could come over to domain I, and the was denied. The answer was denied.
How often do they update the domains?
Is it like every twice a year, I think, the global changes?
Yeah, with the lack of engineers.
So that's the whole user group. So we
Right.
put in our requests, that requests are determined by the domain, and then domain changes happen. We just we are so early on in our implementation or conversion that we don't even have information in the domain yet.
Yeah. And then you have the code freezes. That's always.
They've really gotten tripped up with billing Medi-Cal setting up
Yeah.
the codes.
It's like they've never done it before.
Yeah.
Lord, that's
Yeah.
weird. That's been awful. And that's what's really holding us up now is getting, picnic codes or whatever in there that.
But I can say, I'm always trying to be Pollyanna a little bit. I think that we've done a really, really good job of managing Cerner. That's the only way to put
Teaching
it.
them, yeah.
That's the only way to put it, really. And it's just been because we just stopped squawking. We never
I
stopped
think
squawking.
you should think about managing Oracle, not managing.
Well, that's a bigger beast. Yeah, but we never stopped squawking. That's the biggest thing is we did not lay quiet and let it be done to us. We pushed very hard. I tell you, Steve's they've got a picture of Steve and Cerner.
The dartboard in the break room. Sweet.
No,
That's
they
great.
got a Steve mug and Cerner. You see this person?
I can help myself.
No, I mean, but it was to the benefit of our organization. A lot of.
It's unfortunate they put us through that though, Rich. It really is.
It was.
We told them what was going on and they don't listen. Their contractors don't listen. They don't. I mean, they got
Well,
their.
you know, the Cerner, and you may know better than I, it's never been known for.
No. And frankly, and Judy's experienced this, if you go to Epic, they don't listen either. They're going to do what they know how to do.
Now then don't ask me how I did then.
No,
So I'll tell you.
I think we did really well, and, I don't want to compare and contrast ourselves against anybody, but I would say that we're further along than other recent conversions by a long way, right? And that's the work of the people in this organization, and the squawking, and the not having those very difficult conversations with Cerner, day after day after. It has been absolutely exhausting.
And we run along OR and we run along
Long term, which they've never done.
It's been years.
So now we're 6 weeks.
We're the first long-term
6 weeks
care
post?
What
in,
was their response to their request to do that?
no. That was the first response.
I mean, they didn't see this as an opportunity.
No, the answer was no. that we've never done long-term care. We have a long-term care module to sell you, but we've never done it. I think we're the first, aren't we? Didn't we build out long-term care? So now MODOC and everybody else can benefit from that. I mean, Eastern Plymouth didn't go live with MODOC or with long-term care originally. They pushed things, what they tried to do with us. We
But
said no.
they're coming over here in a couple of weeks
Good.
to see our system.
So
that they know.
Seneca led the charge in a lot of those modules. I'm proud to say that. A lot of folks are going to benefit from the work this team did.
Question, R1, is that the auditing? R1?
No,
What is R1?
it's, our outsourced billing company.
Billy?
Yeah,
Instead of HRG.
billing, but they're a healthcare, huge healthcare company. They do quality, they do resource management, they do, go on, check them out on just Google R1. And it's a pretty impressive organization.
We used to work with them.
The cool part is a lot of their leadership came from the rev cycle side at Cerner.
Well, they bought Cerner's, what was called RevWorks,
Rivers.
and Cerner bailed. And that's another thing, Cerner, I mean,
Terrible.
everyone's making money off a revenue cycle, and to throw that away on your own system, but that's water under the bridge. Cerner needs to kiss and make up with R1 because those guys can make them very successful, make your system really work well.
Yes, we just converted to R1 with this converter. They helped set the system up for us. Yes.
And fabulous segue, as Sean would say. At our last meeting, or some meeting, one of our meetings, you brought up the thing about that we're gonna have two patient portals for payments, where you can make bill payments online. It's in the same place, and it's actually done by the same company, RevSpring Persona Pay. So you'll go onto our website, you'll click Pay My Bill, there'll be a drop down and it'll say HRG R1, and when you go there, it'll say pay this for services after June 5th and after, and before June 5th. And they'll have the same facing on it. And what it'll be, Jerry, is that you have to put the account number on your statement to get into the portal. And once you get in there, they might be linked to other statements. And so maybe the worst thing that happens is you pay, if you have multiple accounts with outstanding bills, you pay an account and it goes against the account that you weren't intending to. But then we have a whole system of statement messages, where people, if they're patients, if they're paying less than the account balance, that they'll have to make a certain payment. They literally get a statement, say, thank you for your payment, but this is below the amount that you need to pay to keep your account in current status. Please contact blah, 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 to arrange for a satisfactory payment arrangement, or to receive a charity, financial assistance application. But they shouldn't be able to, there should be no way that they could make a CPSI HRG payment in the other one.
So did I hear you correctly in saying that the patient has to choose between R1 and HRG before they enter their account number?
Yes, it's a
So how do
literally
they
before
know-
June.
How will they know? I mean, I as a patient wouldn't know what R1 was.
Well, we have all kinds of flashing messages and
Okay.
community communication that,
That
Chelsea back there, yeah, that Chelsea did a great job of, and it was amazing, because when you go into like R1 or HRG, it literally in big letters across there says, use this for services June 5th and beyond. Use this for services prior to June 5th. Yeah, so, we'll get questions. Now, the portal's not live. The portal will go live sometime next week. And then when we do make it live, then we'll have Chelsea send out however she does her, her communication network as far as informing the public. So
And have we started issuing the new bills?
that'll be part of what goes live next week is statements. Now, we billed quite a bit, but we've received very little payment so far. So there won't be a lot of statements that'll be going out right away. So very cool thing about a new system your first month, all your AR is current.
All your new ARs.
That's exciting. Perfectly aged AR for 1 month.
They are to be very.
So that's it. All right.
And then, before you go, just budget for our upcoming fiscal year.
Yeah.
When will we think we'll be reviewing that?
September. Sorry, it's,
No, I know, we've got a lot going on.
yeah, the progression of events here are get the June financials to Whitfly this week for them to update the financial forecast. Get that to the USDA the first week of August. Then as soon as we're clear on that, and I immediately start working on the external audit scheduled for the last week of August. So, and there's some work to do because I'm working with 2 sets of books.
Right.
It's interesting. Once I do have Kristen Courtwright, our accounting supervisor, working on the labor budget, which is a big piece of, big piece of it. So once I'm ready to go, 70% of the work will be done. So I think that September, and maybe we can decide if we want to have a separate meeting and then to go through it in detail. There's going to be not a lot of changes. I mean, it's more or less business as usual. We'll just have to see. The luxury is that hopefully we'll be able to, plug in some additional providers and that type, but pretty much everything's.
So from now until then, we're going to compare based on our last year's budget numbers?
Shouldn't be any of a question.
Yeah, you don't have to answer right now, we can always
Yeah,
come back with a recommendation, and we'll talk next week at our regular meeting.
so let's see, I'll present July at the August meeting. Yeah, there's an outside possibility. I could maybe just have some preliminary numbers to put in there. Not that our board approved, but just something
To track to.
that's gonna be probably in the ballpark, so that we don't
Draft budget.
big time draft budget, but just something so that if we're out of line, that
We'll be able
You
to.
guys should get that.
it's not like you drop it in and go, oof. So, because again, June's gonna be a bit rough and some of it's gonna carry into July. I guess I'll just have to make a decision with your blessing, that we budget for some bleed of Cerner into the new fiscal year. It doesn't matter, it is what it is, we're incurring the expense.
Essentially, we're saying the expenses are going to be out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. They're gonna be a little higher than.
And the revenue side?
Well, June's gonna be down a little bit, down to what we saw in May and down to what we budgeted for. We're still struggling with, is this really the number? Is this everything that we're gonna capture? Now, what's interesting about Cerner is that Cerner is a real-time system, and by that I mean, Evident, what we would do is we'd finish the month and then we'd spend 3 or 4 days making sure everything for the prior month is in. You're done at the end of the month with Cerner. If you put in charges related to the prior month in the subsequent month, that revenue goes into that month. Now I can do an accounting entry to accrue late charges, but it was interesting. I looked at the late charges that have gone in halfway through July, and they're quite small, 19,000 on $1.8 million, $1.9 million in revenue. That's pretty low. That was pretty impressive. So, I've got to dig into the utilization statistics. They're not as self-evident as they were previously in CPSI, and just line them up with the revenue to make sure that we're doing it. But it's our first month. We know we're struggling with certain things of capturing charges, and this goes back to the whole Cerner experience. is that, and you could talk to your folks there, what Cerner's philosophy is a little bit is they say fix it in production, fix it in a live environment. They'll let you go without a complete perfect build, and then as you start seeing it with live data, with your real information, then you try and fix it, and boy, that's way less than fun. So there's a struggle to get things, but we're definitely, we saw something like 45 to 50,000 in average daily revenue throughout the month of June. And we had almost no inpatients and very little observation in the month of June. And so it was almost all outpatient revenue. And so we looked at our historical outpatient revenue. It was a little higher. It was 55, 57,000. So it was a little lower. But now we've gotten into July, and now we're seeing days where we're running as high as $90,000 a day, $75,000 to $90,000. So, June, 4th of July, of course, but still.
But also, are we capturing?
Yeah, and I'm just working off that service date. So I'm, again, I'm learning as we go how to interpret all the data. So, but that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a big jump into July.
I think July is going to be an interesting month to look at, to analyze, because that's where we're starting to get our stride with capturing data in real time, capturing charges in real time, kind of look at this. I think July is going to be a very, very interesting financial analysis.
Thank you.
Any other motion to
Move to accept the financial.
accept it?
Yes, thank you.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you all in favor, Shelley? Sherry?
Aye.
Rich?
Steve?
Ken? And I'll vote aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, let's stick around.
All right, so moving on to number 7, consideration of award contract to Almanac Tree Removal as lowest responsible bidder for SHE replacement for Glasses Hospital Skilled Nursing Facility. Donna? Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead, Donna, thank you.
Alrighty, so you have in your packet the bid that was received after we re-advertised that following last week's board meeting, and we received one bid from Almanar Tree Service, which is what's included in your packet, for $158,000. That is inclusive of a $3 million umbrella, which is slightly different from what was asked for, given the feedback that we had gotten from Plumas District Hospital on the insurance requirements that they had imposed on their tree harvester. But what this leads to is having a total of $5 million coverage in general liability, with the $3 million umbrella on their $2 million aggregate coverage. And so the request to the board would be to approve the bid with the lowered insurance at the $158,000. And then we want to make sure that it's clear with the board some of the things that need to also happen both before and after the tree harvest. So we are in the middle right now of public comment for NEPA. So that's the environmental review as required for federal environmental compliance and as required by USDA. Again, in public comment, that closes on the 21st, the public comment does. And we have been communicating with USDA to have that a quick turnaround following public comment closing and getting their approval, with the intent of starting tree harvest on the 26th. Any approval today would be pending that approval. We would not propose starting the tree harvest without the NEPA approval. We also want to make sure that it's clear that we are asking for this to proceed, number one, without the full USDA loan approval. We have been communicating with USDA about making sure that us proceeding, as long as we have NEPA approval, proceeding with some site work such as this licensed timber operator work, without the loan approval is not, they've indicated it's not going to preclude us getting the USDA loan, as long as we have the USDA, or as long as we have the NEPA approval, and that we just need to understand that we're proceeding at risk because we don't have the loan approval. So I want to make sure that that's clear to the board. And then additionally, the thing that follows the tree removal is the intended work by Bolt to do the grading operations, really pushing to make sure that that can start this year in order to maximize this year's construction season before the snow, with the intent of having a full year next year of construction season, such that and in order to do so, we have to get dried in by the snow of 2024, and that requires us to do grading this year. We are having a challenge with the requirement of having skilled and trained workforce that's required for the design build contract under state law. And so as Bolt has put out over 50 requests to bid across Northern California and has not been able to find a grading contractor that meets the skilled and trained requirement that is also available. So
Sorry to interrupt there. Can we use people out of Nevada?
I'm going to ask Grant if I believe that is the case. We can use anyone as long as it is they meet the skilled and trained.
And this is Grant. I agree with that. They have to meet the skilled and trained workforce environment requirement that I think they're having trouble complying with in an area such as the district.
So we're exploring the possibility of having this scope of work contracted direct to Seneca, taking it outside of Bolt's scope of work so that the skilled and trained, so that requirement is not there, because it is under the design build contract that kicks in. And so those conversations are ongoing right now between Grant and Bolt Legal. And so we're working to as diligently as we can to get grading in line immediately following the licensed timber operator work. But again, want the board to be aware that that is not 100% at this time. So we're working on that. We're working obviously on the USDA loan. And then again, just want to make sure that the decision is with that acknowledgement.
You've also done some analysis around how much approximately it would cost us if we didn't move forward at this point in time and waited till we had the full loan approval. Would you mind talking about that?
We have an approximate $2 million add in costs to delay to starting grading next spring, as well as an approximate 8-month delay in first patient, if we were to do that wait.
So the last time we met, there was going to be a follow-up meeting, and I'm just wondering what the result of that was.
With USDA?
With USDA, yeah. Am I correct, Sean, it was with USDA?
Yeah, we have ongoing meetings with USDA. related to financials. So they're ongoing. We have another one coming up Thursday. Is that right, Donna? Working session.
Our next one is
Tomorrow or?
Friday. I'm sorry, I'm looking.
It's Thursday.
They just moved it, Donna.
Yeah. So we have ongoing discussions, the particulars around the PAR and some of the financials that Ripley did. There's some questions going back and forth, but they just want to understand more. And there were some terms that were back and forth so that we can understand. But those are ongoing leading toward the accepted application.
What's the delay in getting the report that they're requiring?
The report for
NEPA?
they've got it. It's out for public.
We have to wait until the public hearing.
Public hearing. So it'll go out until Friday. It's out for public hearing until Friday, at which point public hearing ends and go back to them. We're hoping that they sign up on NEPA very quickly so that we can start our licensed timber operator work. And then we have to vet this issue out related to the grading. This is all around the design bill. It's all, when we use the term design bill, there's state law that becomes important. It's the trained and skilled language that applies. That's why, we're working through it with Grant and everybody to take a look at, do we put that to bid on our own? Because we're not the design build entity. We're not the design build contractor. Right?
So you're saying pull it out of the design build package
Yeah,
and bid it separately
Yes.
through Seneca?
correctly.
Okay.
And that's what they're working on right now, is looking at the legality behind all that.
What is the risk associated with doing that?
It's,
I can address that. I think both Grant and I can address that. So we're working to mitigate that risk by requiring Bolt to indemnify the district for the work that's done outside of their contract. Grant, do you want to go into that further?
Sure. So, I mean, the conversations are preliminary at this point about what resolution we would seek, but obviously it is of utmost importance to the district that any action it takes here is not prejudicial to the district's interests or places the district in a position where it is potentially dealing with multiple prime contractors pointing fingers at each other. And I would not anticipate any likelihood that if the district is to proceed in such manner, that it would be doing so to increase its risk.
Thank you.
I think Shirley had a question about.
Yeah, what was budgeted for the, in the Bolt contract? How much money was the grading, yeah?
We have the grading at, sorry, bear with me here. We have the grading at 6.4 million. And that's grading, drainage, site construction. And I am awaiting, Grant and I both are awaiting the details around that. But the budget line item for that is 6.4 million.
All of the site work. So the grading itself, we have to look at the details behind the work that would be done this fall. What that cost looks like.
All those acres, huh?
So we potentially be doing an addendum to the existing contract to make changes, or do we have to have a whole brand new contract?
No, it would be a deductive change order to the Bolt contract to remove that scope from their work. And so it would be contracted direct to.
Okay. We would adjust the funding component as well, yes. Okay.
So the district would not, hopefully, be getting any liability for come back around where, say, the state says it wasn't really a design build because you pulled this out in order to avoid meeting our requirements, and therefore you're in violation of 85 regulations. So we want to be sure of that we don't throw out the whole design build concept by pulling this out separately. Because I have seen where that has happened in other contracts. Because they know people are gonna figure out a way around it if they can.
Yeah, but what if you can't get anybody to bid?
Yeah, well, that's why I say I think we could probably show there's extenuating circumstances.
But we have,
We might not be able to get in.
Well, that's true, and that's the other
Well, I
thing.
think that if we took out that specific language, we'd probably be more successful in getting bid, but I do understand your concern is, are we cherry picking?
So, but what is Bolt's experience when they can't get somebody to bid? What do they do?
I don't know.
I mean, their go-to right now would be to postpone until next year.
No, but it's not acceptable.
That's right.
So why not put it on Bolt to get somebody to bid? I mean, that's what's in their proposal to us, that they would do that work.
So is this normally, Don, let me ask you the $6.4 million question. Is this more related to the design bid build methodology versus the design build issue? Is it around the?
Well, the requirement is around design build. Is that what the question is?
So, yeah, so does Bolt normally do design bid build? And
Oh,
therefore,
no, they do both. They do
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
So the ones that I guess can satisfy that language are encumbered. Is that correct? They're both saying the ones that can satisfy the language in the design build for skilled and trained are encumbered and can't do the work. Is that correct? They're busy.
The ones that can't do the skilled and trained can't do the work under Bolt. Is that the
What I'm
question?
saying, the ones that have that as part of their company are busy. They're encumbered.
That is correct. That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And has Bolt tried to talk to these folks that can do that work and meet those requirements to say, is there a project that you can push off? Because this grading is about, how long is it? 2 months? 3 months?
I don't know if they're having those conversations as much as we are starting now the conversations of the people that are available but don't have the skilled and trained, if they are then able to pull on to bid for this project.
Donna, I gotta hop off for a second. I'll be back in 5 minutes or so.
Well, I think a conversation to have with Bolt would be to query the companies that have this skilled and trained. I know they're busy and they're encumbered on projects, but projects push all the time. Is there a way that we can talk to them to say, are any of these companies in a push place where projects are being delayed and they want to fill in this space for 2.5 months while the other project, can they move things around a bit? Or are they flat out just saying, no, we don't want to do that?
Well, Grant brought up something similar to that, saying, can there be a premium payment for having them consider this project?
No. We're tapped out. No.
I mean, because they're dealing, they've got time constraints and time requirements on the projects they're working on, assumedly now too. So, they can't necessarily, I don't know the specifics, but it doesn't surprise me that they can't just put another project on the shelf without consequence.
Yeah, but Donna, Bolt wants our project to be successful and on time, I imagine, because they want to be able to show other facilities that need to replace theirs what they can do in our space. So I think it behooves them to put a little more work and or dollars to make sure this happens when we plan for it to happen. That would be my 2 cents. I don't know if anyone else has any.
And they've known our timeline.
Yes.
Right.
So this is should not be a surprise.
I'm not in favor of what we're suggesting doing. I think we should get Bolt to perform. I don't know if there's a possibility of an exemption from the requirement. I mean, if we can't build our project because there's nobody that could provide the workforce, why not try and get an exemption from that?
Why not what?
try to get an exemption to that language, when there's nobody that's bidding.
He's suggesting to see if it's possible for Bolt to get an exemption, I think. Is that what
Yes,
it is?
right. And go ahead and use a contractor that does
Right.
it. Well,
I mean, if you can't get anybody to bid.
right. Because we would be in the same boat. You know, we would be trying to go out to bid probably with less resources than Bolt has to get people that can do the work. And we have no guarantee, they don't have to be trained and ready to
Yeah,
do
they
the
would
job.
have to adhere to that language.
But yet we would have to find somebody that's not already booked up. And
Well,
Well, there's 50 people they put it out to that would be able to bid on it if it didn't have that particular language, 50 companies.
Oh, that's good. That's good to
Oh, so
know.
who's
So
taking
the,
ours?
so the 50 companies that they put it out to, because of that language, chose not to bid. The ones that can satisfy that language are encumbered.
Right.
Okay, so we either somehow find a way where that language does not apply to the bid, and then we send it out to those 50 that now meet the requirements to do the work, or, you know, we somehow move the schedule around on those that do adhere to that.
Who would have the authority to make an exemption of that type?
Whatever agencies.
Required.
It's state law. It's state law.
Is it new? Is it new language?
No,
I don't think so.
no, it's not new. It's not new. You know, we're here because we wanted to do design build in order to get the benefit of doing component design, so design and construction. So we will be getting that benefit, but it's kind of a catch-22 and can't get your have your cake and eat it too. Like there are pros and cons to each direction, and this is the con to this direction.
So the upshot really is the board, you know, you have a bid in front of you for the licensed timber operator. It's dependent upon NEPA's completion, right? So this is the low bid, so we can approve this, but knowing that we're trying to sequentially move to a grading right after this. And we just wanted the board to be aware of some of the things that we're working through with Grant and Bolt and things like that. So just understanding the full picture, I think, is very important.
Does our contract with Bolt require them to deliver the grading service at a specific time?
Not specific to grading. Their contract has an end date of November 25th of 2025, and that's their time commitment. So it's not, they don't have a deadline for grading in particular.
Yeah, it's broken down by milestones, like certain phases of it, you know, with timeline conditions.
So there wasn't an expectation after the trees are harvested that grading would commence, you know, X number of days after that.
That was certainly the idea, and the project plan alluded to that before the winter hits, to get the grading done. Yes,
And Bolt has known that. They've been very well
they
aware.
have known that.
Yeah. And I guess this issue with this
But then again,
language.
we're a month delayed already with the timber harvest, you know, we were supposed to start in late June. And so now things are getting shoved, compacted. And then we've got this other, you know, language related issue that we've got to work through. You know, once again, I made it very clear to Donna, and Donna will attest to it, that it's 50-50 that we get the grading done. I'm like, no, it's not, in my opinion, it's not. It's not 50-50. We have got to find a resolution to this issue, period. So keep working. But the board needs to be aware of what we're working through right now.
Let's move on with the contract.
And before you do, I have some language that Grant has put out for what the requested motion is. If I can read that. It says we are asking for a motion to authorize the district CEO or designee to award the contract for the licensed timber operator at the site of the Seneca Healthcare District Replacement Critical Access Hospital and Skilled Nursing Facility to Almanor Tree Removal as the lowest responsive bidder, subject to and only upon the completion of all approvals and processes required by the National Environmental Policy Act.
I move what she said. And I'm sure she'll
Okay,
send you the
thank
language.
you. I appreciate that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, you all in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Sherry?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you for reading that, and thank you for catching that I was trying to scroll as fast as I could possibly.
Thank you, Donna,
Thank you, guys.
for summarily putting it out there.
Yes, and thanks for all of your team's efforts on working through these bids, the bid
Of
process.
course. Of course, we'll get there. We're excited to get started, and I am gonna sign off and call the licensed timber operator so that we can have our meeting for planning tomorrow.
Perfect.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Grant. All right, and with that, we will adjourn to closed session. Okay, closed session is closed. We're back out in open session. We will be having our next regular board meeting on July 27th at 3 p.m. here in the conference room. And then the day before, on July 26th at 9 a.m. is going to be our groundbreaking ceremony. So for anyone watching, we'll be out behind the clinic.
No decisions.
Oh, I'm sorry, no portable action was made during closed session. Thank you, Ken. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. We can self-recording.
You want me to agendize board of directors item? You want me to start agendizing the discussion around